Miss Lecile Webster. A life well lived. She was born January 7, 1922. Her declaration card was signed by Mr. Horace Holly in 1946. She came to the D.C. area for work for the State Department and was here for 6 months before getting her a first assignment. She worked for the State Department for 23 years and retired in 1976. Lecile had all of her teaching work organized into volumes, big volumes, on her shelf in her office, and she was sharing it to Maxine and I. She became the chair of the National Spiritual Assembly of Norway, and she was very proud of this because it brought her to the Holy Lands. Previously, she had traveled and taught throughout Asia. She really, through the State Department, got to get many opportunities for teaching.
And people you've met all over the world.
So you knew all of the original members of the first House of Justice.
And we had, through the years, had been traveled teaching in areas, and so we were like, really
family, huh?
Yes. So the House member says, well, why don't you help us get organized and get our staff together? And I said, oh, but my house in Columbia, Maryland is just sitting there. I have to take care of it. So I said, I'll have to go back to the States. So they said, well, go back to the States and come back. Because we have to get it in order. So then Kanun called me over across the road from there, because, the house membership in Kanun's. And Kanun said, okay, what did they want? And I said, they have to organize their offices. So Kanun said, okay, go and get it all straightened out and then come back. And so, because I had been on a teaching trip all from Hong Kong all the way through, up to India. And then Kanun says, okay, but the House members, these House members never had an office, never had a staff. No, they were in various businesses. Rue was a doctor, he had his clients, and so they said we have to really organize and decide which departments we're going to have. Now, like Amos, he liked the workshop type, and then his Persian name now I can't think of him. He liked the gardens, so he was going to take charge of all of the gardens in the World Center. So it was divided up, and then they said, "Okay, go home, go back to the States, and come back. And be prepared to stay a month or so till we get organized."
This is just an example of some of the work Lecile had to do there. More phones. 50% of the phone calls to the finance department are for people who do not have phones. All the phone calls are answered by Ben or Mary, and we're called, usually by yelling. This requires us to leave our desks and to return to our desks to obtain the necessary information that is required and return it again to the phone to convey the information. If we need to use the phones, we have to interrupt Ben or Mary Ann to give us a line to use and leave our desk to place the call. It was kind of funny. She said that there was no partitions to separate anybody. But you got to think back. This was 1963. Take a look. It was the 70s that we got word processing and all that, So this is just the growth of telecommunications, and we didn't have all that back in 1963. This was interesting. Lecile had lots of interesting things in her home. She also had an orange seed. that came from an orange that was planted by a tree that the Bob had planted in his house in Shiraz. And it was given to her by Mrs. Varga, the wife of the hand of the cause. And a silver coin that dated about 100 BC. Amazing. 100 BC, right? And then she had, envelopes. Here's it was from Amelia Collins, and it contained a piece of Persian silk, which had been in the room where the most holy laws had been revealed, and had been in the holy tomb for days. And here's another cloth that was there that was given to her, but that had been in the holy shrines. It says for your mother. I'm not sure if that was for Dr. Austin or not.
Too much this class thing, and you had to have a degree or just look a certain way or some group.
Mm-hmm.
And you see that elite group, I couldn't stand it. You had to be a certain shade of yellow or white,
Mm-hmm.
and hair. You had to look as if you were strictly a mixed African and Asian.
Mm-hmm.
I got in this building. I went up there and got off in downtown Silver Springs. She was in that high rise, and there was something happening all the time, and I kept running back and forth. And I said, "You better get out of this building." And oh, no. And I said, "You're not going to park outside, you're going to park inside." And so I said, "Elson, you wear these big hats, you're going to park the car outside, and the wind's going to blow your hat off." And so we went through that. And then she called up everybody, "Come and look at my apartment." And I thought, "Shut up." Really, it was really. And Connell had somebody. I was living in Columbia there. Somebody called me and says, Connell said she will be back in the area and she's going to stay with you.
Oh.
Well,
So Lecile spent quite a bit of time with Roy Canoon in Africa. She visited her in America. She loved to bring joy and to entertain. And she and Dr. Austin lived in the same building. Here's a few of the people. You can see Dr. Austin there and Lecile there in the back.
to make a long story short, there was a lot of talk about the grave site. Anyway, we got a married. Yeah. And during that time, I realized where the grave site, it was very expensive out there, and they were pushing people to buy grave sites. And so I went to the office and talked to them. And then I talked around with the Highs about buying a lot. Mm-hmm. And so by the time I got through talking around, I was able to find 9 Baha'is said, yes, we'll buy. I said, buy the grave lot. Mm-hmm. You can sell it later, but we'll all be together on that hill.
Yes.
And we have our spots.
Right.
And so I got 9 people together. We bought a section of that. Now, that section is not far from where we are lined up here. Mm-hmm. We're here. And so I was trying to get more Baha'is. We have that hill, which is just below the office.
Yes.
There, that whole section, that would be Baha'i.
Right.
You see. And somebody told me recently, they went out there and they said they saw a sign that says Baha'i. I said, that's us. I said, I know it's 4 Baha'is, 5 or 6 Baha'is have already been there in that, that area. And so that was another project that I'm still working on.
And of course, here are the 44 acres on the Potomac that Lecile worked tirelessly to make sure that the Baha'is would have land. And of course, she got together the funders so the land would be paid off, and then we would pay back those funders. Just a few more of her friends. There's her dear friend, Effie, who spent so much time with her and was so extremely close. And of course, this video was created with Maxine and I. We were there in her home for a few days, just laughing and telling the story. And there she is at when she was 100, she almost made it to 102. And these are some of the friends who came and gave her a wonderful birthday party.
Anyway, I did what I could.